As long as you just get in there, you love people, you serve them, and you pay attention to what's going on around you, God's going to lead you to some amazing places.
You're listening to the Follower of One podcast. We want our faith to matter full time, whatever we're doing, but especially at work. Here's today's podcast. Hey, Follower of One, it's Mike Henry Sr., and today I'm interviewing Michael Henry Jr. So welcome to the podcast, Michael.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So part of what we've been doing with these early podcast episodes is just asking people to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about your job and your background and what kind of work you do.
Okay, yeah. So I've worked for a aerospace repair station. So they repair components of aircraft, for all the big flyers, American Airlines, U.S. Airways, stuff like that. And they are a international company, and we're one of their kind of satellite locations here in Tulsa. And basically, I'm a process analyst. So what I do is I spend most of my day analyzing processes and building reports. I get to interface with a whole lot of people. So it's actually really fun. So getting able to get in on the shop floor and kind of ask people kind of what's working and what's not. So it gives me an opportunity to really connect with a lot of people. So I have a lot of good working relationships with dozens of people at work, that I interface with daily. So, and a lot of people that are here that are here on contracts from overseas. So
how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, I've been doing this for 8 years. So
time flies. I never held a job 8 years. So tell me a little bit about your experiences with the Follower of One and marketplace mission trips and things like that.
So initially, when this ministry was really kicking off, I was really interested in it because I really found it very difficult. I always felt like God really had a plan for me to go into ministry, but I never really knew kind of what to do next. And so I had actually gone through a sort of like a find your purpose workshop with the church that we were affiliated with, and went through there. And at the end of it, I kind of came with this mission statement of living out your faith every day. That was kind of like supposed to be my mission statement. So years forward, when this ministry started kicking off, I got really excited about this opportunity because that's what I felt like God has always wanted me to do, is that I didn't always have the capacity or the finances to kind of hit the mission field. And so whenever that you brought up this concept of going on a mission trip inside your workplace, that was really attractive to me because I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, that's exactly the type of thing, because I work really hard to really create a good environment with everybody that I'm around. And why not have a focused kind of experience where I'm trying to just really move these people closer to God in a non-intrusive way. So that was kind of just a very organic type way, but being very intentional with my actions and with my ministry, essentially. And so that was what I first took on from it. And then the first mission trips, were really powerful for me for that, to be able to live out kind of what I always felt was like my calling, so to say, or like my mission statement. So.
Well, very cool. So you've been on a couple of the mission trips now. What are some of the things that you've kind of experienced, or some of the actions that you've started doing that become part of your regular daily routine?
So praying every day has become a huge deal for me. So initially, I never really spent a lot of time really praying specifically for my coworkers. It's kind of be like I do the blanket prayer over everybody in my life, God be with everybody. So like I kind of really did that for years. And then so with the mission trip, it was like one of the very first steps of the day is like to make sure that you're praying for each person that you're going to come in contact with. And I sit in direct proximity with 7 people, and 7 people in a real small office. We're real close. And it was like, I actually know what's going on inside these people's lives, but I've never really, I always keep work and home very separate. So it's like really trying to like focus, okay, I got to pray for this person. I know they've really been struggling in this area, or, I know that they're kind of far from God. And so it's like really trying to pray for these people. That was one of the biggest takeaways. The next thing was that I believe it's on day 3, the first concept that just had a really like big impact that I try to do more often was it kind of encouraged you to serve your coworkers. And I work in an office environment. So being able to it said, a idea that was suggested was to buy donuts for the team. And it's actually kind of funny because every week we have a donut sign up sheet in our office where somebody rotates bringing in donuts on Friday mornings. It's what everybody looks forward to. But here we are on Wednesday, and I read that and I was like, hey, that's kind of a good idea. I got an extra $10. I can get a dozen donuts. So I drive over to the donut shop and I'm driving into work and I'm praying over this donut box, saying hopefully this is like received well. And it threw everybody off. Like it was actually like a really positive experience in that way because everybody was like, whoa, what, you brought in donuts on, it's not Friday. What are you doing? And it was actually happened to be my week on Friday to get donuts. So they're like, so are these Friday donuts that you're bringing in, or are these other donuts? Are we still going to get our donuts on Friday? And so it was, it was kind of funny. I was like, no, I just felt like, halfway through the week, we got to get some donuts in here, and it was funny to see. You could see it positively impacted everybody on the team. And so with that, I was able to kind of go, I was able to serve these people. They didn't know that I was ministering to them. They didn't know that that was what I was trying to do. And so then after that moment, I was like, wow, this positively impacted everybody's life. Just something simple as buying a box of donuts. And so I've tried to do that even periodically, and nobody's upset to see donuts, but it's like, being able to see the team just kind of just feel almost like feel special, feel seen, feel all of that. And it was just creating a positive environment because our work environment is very stressful. So it's like that just, just a surprise box of donuts and stuff like that just really, really helped out. So then the heightened loveness that you have while that you're on the mission trip allows you to see more of what God does every single day. So with that box of donuts, God used that to positively impact everybody in that office. Some people are so far from him, they wouldn't know a sign from God if it slapped him in the face, So it's really an awesome thing to be able to just brighten somebody's day and to kind of let them know that you see them and let them know that you're there for them and stuff. It surprised me how well that it went over, to be honest with you. So,
well, and if you're like me, you experience some joy too because you see God using those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you spend a lot of time in meetings too, don't you?
Yes. Mm-hmm. In those meetings, you're able to be with being on the mission trip. You have a heightened level of awareness the whole time. So that allows me to be more aware of kind of what's happening to the people around me.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed when I'm in meetings with people. I pay a different kind of attention. It's not just about the meeting anymore. It's also about the people. So tell us a little bit more, Michael, about some of the experiences that you've had as you interact with people in the workplace around these gifts or things that you're doing.
I find a lot of things to be really positive. And then as I interact with people, trying to keep a very listening ear to kind of what they're saying behind their words, what's kind of going on in their lives. Like, are they stressed out? Is there anything that I could pray for them for without having to automatically jump to the, can I pray for you for this? To make sure that I'm creating a very good environment. So with that, I've had a couple instances where a completely normal conversation about just random things has really just kind of ended up into a God conversation, which was actually really awesome for me to kind of share kind of what I believe. And I work with quite a few atheists. And so when these people would get into, or I should say, we have a very open communication with their beliefs and my beliefs already. So that base work is already there. So I let them kind of, well, what does your God say about this kind of, and they kind of ask me kind of questions, usually related to how Christians are reacting in politics or whatever. And I can kind of say, well, I don't know, this is kind of what I believe, and kind of sparks a really good conversation. I've never left those conversations feeling I offended somebody or them feeling offended. The work environment stays very positive. We've had very good interactions. And so during the mission trip, especially, when you are really focused on the people that you're coming into contact with in your workplace, whether it's customers or, in my case, other departments or the coworkers that I'm working with, that heightened sense of awareness of what that you're doing and knowing that you have a purpose each day to focus on, it really leads to creating really solid habits that you can carry on throughout your daily life, essentially. So it allows you to see your coworkers and the people that you interact with at a much different capacity than you had before. And so those are some of the real positive things that I've seen.
Very cool. So, have you thought much about the marketplace mission trips? Like, what else could we be doing, or what else could we consider as something to try and extend or help people to get this habit more ingrained?
I would love to see sort of like multimedia type material. So whether it's podcasts or whether it's video type stuff, I really feel like that this is outside of the mission trip, especially to have something to continually go to, for quick pick me ups to kind of remind you how to like try to remind you those good experiences that, God opened up to you while that you were really focused on it to remind you to get back in there. So I think like the content's so good. I think that if you just take that content and kind of mix it into, several different avenues of media to be able to kind of, whether it's in your email or whether it's a Facebook post with a video or a quick 5-minute podcast or something like that that you can kind of just like kick off, so or
Mm-hmm.
even like a Bible plan or something or a Bible study so that you can, show other people kind of get like a team together, to kind of do this together. Because I think that would be like the strongest thing. I haven't had the opportunity. I've talked to a few people at my work about, joining me on one of these, some other fellow Christians that I talk with regularly, and I haven't got anybody to quite commit yet. But when that happens, I feel like even that team interface, it's just like whenever that you travel abroad on like ministry, if you have a physical team that you could
Mm-hmm.
actually work with every day. That was the other thing that I didn't mention is a lot of times, I couldn't make the calls in the evenings on the last couple trips, but the ones that I did make, that helps tie everything together. Being able to bounce it off other people, talk about your daily experiences really helps it move it from something that happened to a experience, which I think is the part that, that we kind of lack a lot. We drone, we
Mm-hmm.
skip over things, and we move on with our lives, where as if it lets you kind of go back and think, oh yeah, I did see God in that moment, like, oh yeah, they had this interaction with somebody. I had something similar to that too. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
really helps feed everything in.
Yeah,
So,
well, and you just did a great promo for us there. I appreciate all that. But of course, this is one of our. Right now, we're recording. This is going to be one of the very early episodes in our podcast. I signed the contract today to
oh,
get the editor people working on editing these podcasts and publishing them. And so, sometime in the next 2 weeks, this will launch, and then we will be doing an interview every week. I'm also doing a 5-minute podcast every day. That will be part of that package.
perfect.
And
Yeah.
then I've just finished the workbook, a draft of the workbook that some people are reviewing. And I hope what can happen one of these days is you can get the workbook and do a 6-week thing with some coworkers and just do it on your own or do it in your church or in a Sunday school class or something like that. So our goal is to come up with as many ways as we can to help people take their faith and ingrain it in their daily behavior at their workplace.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
So, and you'll probably get an opportunity to do some of these things too. I mean, I don't want to be the only one talking. So hopefully it won't be hard for other people to record these 5-minute thought of the day types of things to help encourage people as they go into their workplace. So I'm excited about what's going on. Have you had much of a chance to get very involved in the online community?
Yes. So I get on there periodically. What I really like about it is being able to kind of continually see the blog posts, kind of getting to
Mhm.
see, the follower of one content, just kind of getting just put in there on a regular basis. That allows me to easier find it. I mean, my Facebook feed is usually filled up with tons of other stuff, and I completely miss the like follower of one stuff. And so like intentionally going in there, I actually like the community for that because it's almost like a purpose. Right. So
Mhm.
it's like as opposed to me scrolling through my news feed on Facebook or on Twitter, being able to go from, oh, that was a funny picture that like somebody posted to, oh yeah, let me read about this and that. Right. So
Mhm.
the usually what ends up happening is I'll scroll through my news feed, I'll see a follower of one content being shared there, and I'll hop into the community and kind of get in there and kind of see what everybody else is doing. There's also I'm a part of the prayer group that's on the community as well,
Mhm.
and I like getting involved with that and just seeing so that way I can be praying for the community, be praying for the ministry, all of those type of things. I like how that, that you can create those silos inside the community. So you have the whole community has a purpose, right? So,
Yeah.
you know,
And one other thing I wanted to ask you about, you travel some internationally for your work, correct?
Yes, sir.
So tell me a little bit about what goes on when you're doing that. And do you do anything different for your faith while you're on the road?
Oh, absolutely. So I have the luxury to go to Europe. So I don't really see it as a chore. I get to fly business class and I get to sit in a nice hotel for my mission trip. Actually, for this next upcoming mission trip, I will be in Germany. So I'm actually pretty excited about getting to take that into, because it's a totally different culture there. I mean, I live in the Bible Belt, so Christianity is not that weird of a topic. But when you're in a culture that doesn't really talk about personal things and doesn't really, talk about religion or anything, and actually has kind of a sore taste in their mouth over religion in the first place, because it's kind of they have a different feel for it over there.
Mm-hmm.
I have had some really awesome God-led conversations while I've been overseas. So creating that God space, creating that environment to have those conversations, and to also being generous in your giving and being intentional, and hearing that the German culture especially, they're almost described as a coconut. So where they have a hard exterior shell, but they're soft on the inside, which means that they basically, once that you open them up, you are in, you're a lifetime friend, you are, but it's about getting to that point where you can have those conversations is sometimes really difficult. And I've been able to make some really good friends where we've had some really awesome conversation over there. And it's just a really cool feeling. So especially to do that internationally. So now it's like I'm at work and I'm on the mission field in another country. So it's, so it is pretty beneficial.
Very cool. So just as a parting kind of suggestion, what would you tell people who are thinking about doing something with Follower of One, or thinking about how they can engage their faith in the workplace?
Honestly, I got to take this next motto from Nike: just do it. That is the best example of, we get so caught up in the what ifs. What if it doesn't go well? What if I say something to offend somebody? Pretending that God doesn't know what's going to happen is a big detriment to what he has planned for you. So if you just get in there, you're paying attention to people. Your goal is not necessarily, I got to save everybody I'm working with in the next week. As long as you just get in there, you love people, you serve them, and you pay attention to what's going on around you, God's going to lead you to some amazing places. So if you're on the fence about it, just get in there and do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I keep telling everybody that as long as you pray for your coworkers, then everything else is downstream of what God does.
Exactly.
Right? And so if we go to work tomorrow and we pray for our coworkers and we are on a mission trip, everything else is extra.
God is in the business of saving people. We are in the business of working for him. So however he wants to use us is fine by me. And the only way that I'm going to hear him is if I'm praying for my coworkers every day.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I really appreciate talking with you. And it's cool to see people getting involved with Follower of One. And all this, as you know, comes out of my struggles of trying to figure out how to do something with my faith, with all the challenges that I have of being the person that I am, being in the workplaces I was in. None of that. God can't possibly be subject to any of those things. So we got to be able to figure out how he would have us live. Well, I appreciate you doing this. I'm going to put a link to your LinkedIn profile and some of this if people want to connect with you or ask you more questions. You're also in the Follower of One community, which is community.followerofone.org. And, if you're wondering about what we're talking about, you can go to followerofone.org and click on the sign up for the Marketplace Mission Trip. And on that page, there's a frequently asked questions section. There's links to videos and blog posts that we've written about the Marketplace Mission Trip, and a form to sign up for the next one. You can always sign up for the next mission trip on that page. So I want to encourage people to join us. I experience a lot of joy. Michael's experiencing the joy of knowing that we're cooperating with God. It's not that we're taking him to work. He's already there. When we show up, we're punching in with him and saying, okay, what do you want us to do today? And he puts us to work.
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks to everyone else for listening. We'll be back next week with another interview, so stay tuned. You've been listening to the Follower of One podcast. Follower of One is an online community for those who want to intentionally follow Jesus every day at work or wherever we go. Join us and learn more at community.followerofone.org. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and share it in your various social media platforms. Thanks for listening.